So today we're going to dive into something pretty incredible. It's a single AI platform that's designed to train people for some of the most high-stakes jobs you can possibly imagine, and I mean on and off the planet. It's a really fascinating peek into the future of learning, so let's just jump right in.
Okay, I want you to picture this. You're a first responder, and you've just arrived at this chaotic scene. There's a chemical spill, someone's down, and every single second is critical. Every move you make has to be perfect. There is absolutely zero room for error.
Or, hey, how about this? Imagine you're a police officer. A situation on the street is blowing up. It's escalating fast. Your stress level is through the roof, the environment is totally unpredictable, and a decision you make in a split second, well, it's going to have life or death consequences.
All right, now let's go way out there. Let's leave Earth completely. You're an astronaut. You're on the International Space Station, and you've been tasked with this super complex experiment that demands absolute precision. And oh yeah, mission control is hundreds of miles away.
So you've got a chemical spill, a police confrontation, and an experiment in orbit. I mean, they seem like they're worlds apart, right? But what's the one thing, the one critical element that links all of them together?
It's this absolute need for training that builds real, actual muscle memory. In jobs like these, reading a manual just isn't going to cut it. You have to practice, you have to do it in a safe place where you can fail and learn from it without, catastrophic consequences.
And just to understand how high the stakes really are, let's ground this with some real-world data from one of these fields. The source material we're looking at points to police violence as a public health issue, and the need for better training is right at the heart of that whole conversation.
Now check this out. This slide shows some pretty stark data from a 2019 study. It breaks down the lifetime risk of being killed by police. And what you see is that it varies a lot depending on who you are. For Black men, the risk is about 1 in 1,000. For Latino men, it's 1 in 1,900. And for white men, it's 1 in 2,500. It's this kind of data that really drives experts to say, hey, we need new training and we need it now.
So, with problems this complex, what does the solution even look like? Well, let's get into the technology that was designed to tackle this exact thing. It's a new kind of artificial intelligence, and it's called the Intelligent X Instructor.
So, the Juxtopia Intelligent X Instructor, or IIXI for short, isn't just some computer program. You got to think of it more like a full-on AI educator. It uses virtual and augmented reality to create these super realistic training situations, and then it uses biometric sensors to actually watch and evaluate how a person is doing, down to the tiniest detail.
So how does this whole thing work? Let's walk through it. First, the learner, so a paramedic, an officer, whoever, they perform a hands-on skill. As they do that, these special sensor armbands are collecting all this detailed biometric data. Then the AI kicks in, uses deep learning to analyze all that data and figure out how well they did. And then the AR goggles give instant, real-time feedback. It creates this complete closed loop for learning.
Okay, so how does this one piece of tech apply to all those different scenarios we started with? The first responder, the police officer, and the astronaut.
This table really breaks it down nicely. So for space exploration, the problem is getting remote help. The solution? These CAMRAD augmented reality goggles, which actually won an award from the ISS National Lab way back in 2014. For first responders, the big issue is skill decay, basically forgetting how to handle hazardous materials. The JHI system, which combines the AI, the sensor bands, and the AR, is the answer there. And for law enforcement, where the big need is for better de-escalation and implicit bias training, that same core platform is used to create incredibly realistic VR and AR simulations.
So here's the key takeaway. This isn't 3 different technologies we're talking about. It's one single, flexible platform. And its whole purpose is to let people build life-saving skills in a simulated world where it's totally safe to make mistakes and, most importantly, learn from them. But the story here, it goes a lot deeper than just the cool tech. The motivation behind this whole platform is a mission to tackle systemic health and economic disparities. And what that really means is these are preventable differences in people's health that are closely tied to their social or economic situations.
And get this, according to the source material from an HBCU conference on the topic, these health disparities in the U.S. have a massive economic impact. We're talking an estimated $93 billion in extra medical costs and another $42 billion in lost productivity every single year.
But here's the problem. There's a real disconnect. The problems are huge, but the funding for new, creative solutions doesn't always make its way to the small businesses and researchers in the communities that are hit the hardest.
This chart really highlights that challenge.
Back in 2015, the NIH gave out about $750 million in small business innovation grants. Out of all that money, just 0.7% went to African-American-owned businesses and 1.7% to Hispanic-owned businesses. A funding gap like that means companies developing amazing solutions like this AI instructor, but from within these communities, they just face a much, much steeper climb.
And this quote right here just sums up the whole mission. It's about social justice for sure, but it's also about improving the health of the entire country. The two things are totally fundamentally linked.
So where does a technology like this go from here? I mean, what's the long-term vision for an AI that can teach us how to perform under the most insane pressure imaginable?
Well, according to documents from an upcoming conference on this tech, the ultimate goal is to completely push the boundaries of what an AI educator can even be. They're not just aiming for a smarter program, they're aiming for something much, much deeper.
The goal, the big objective, is to develop AI instructors that are self-aware and sentient. But it gets even wilder. They want to make them culturally competent, empathetic, and ethical. Just think about what that really means for training. An empathetic AI could notice a trainee's stress levels rising and adjust the difficulty on the fly. A culturally competent AI could create way more nuanced de-escalation scenarios. We're talking about an instructor that doesn't just grade your actions, but actually understands the human being who's performing them.
And that really brings us to this final huge question. This technology starts by teaching us how to perform under pressure. But as it evolves, as it becomes more aware and more empathetic, you really have to ask, if an AI can teach us how to save a life, what else can it teach us about ourselves?